All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guy, Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 197, full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be here with you guys and for you to be here with us, whether you are actually live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or you are YouTubing. Thank you so much for making time to be with us in this time, as we have so much to get to in the world of sports, man. We have a lot of NFL to get to. We have NFL games going on as we are live streaming this, or at least we're getting prepped to in about 45 minutes or so. We have the Vikings and Colts set to kick off. We have the Browns and the Ravens. We have the Bills and the Dolphins. Big time Saturday slate in the NFL, man. This is always kind of a weird thing, but I prefer this, honestly. I wish it would stay this way.
I like Saturday.
I wish they'd take away Thursday night games. You'd have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night football, so you have 3 straight games of NFL games.
Would you think would it be better to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday going into I guess the end of the seasons?
We could definitely, that's a great debate to have. That's a great discussion
We
to
can
have.
talk about it
like I
here
said,
in about Eddie Hour.
I just love the fact that a Saturday, Sunday, Monday scenario plays itself out, so you have an entire weekend of NFL. I know the college game would not like that, but I'm not really caring about the college game. I care about what I like, which is the NFL, which is what we're going to talk about a lot today. We have the Eddie Hour. I'm sure we're going to get to some World Cup news, World Cup updates. We had a big game for third place in the World Cup today against Croatia and Morocco. Eddie, I'm sure, will have his thoughts and viewpoints on that. I'm sure he has some other thought-provoking questions across the UFC, NFL, NBA, MLB landscape. I never know what he's going to bring, but I can't wait to find out what he's bringing. We're going to give you guys our Week 17 NFL picks when it comes to the Sunday slate, because I know there's some big games this week as well. A lot of teams fighting for divisions, a lot of teams fighting for playoff seedings, and a lot of teams just fighting for pride. We'll see how this all goes, man. This is usually when the NFL season gets to its most interesting point. And then, of course, we're going to give you guys our Chiefs-Texans preview, and then we're going to finish off the show with some L's, because we love to hand out L's every single week. You guys may notice that our guy Trevor Twiddle is not here this week. He had some late game updates when it came to his occupation, if you will. We'll just leave it at that.
Decision, baby.
He's a valuable commodity at his workplace, and he needed to be there, and that's where we'll leave it. But you know what I want to start, guys? First and foremost, if you've not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, we'd very much appreciate if you haven't done that already. Hit the subscribe, hit the update button, the notification button. Whenever we upload a new video, you will get notified of it. We appreciate all the growth and all the support we've gotten, guys, over this last year since we started taking on live streaming on our own, and it's been nothing short of amazing, and we appreciate that, but we're not where we want to be yet. So if you've not done that yet, go ahead and do that, and if you already have, hit some friends up, let them know to do it for us, or do it with you as well for us. We'd greatly appreciate that. But let's start here, guys, where things left off last week. We were talking about what we expected from this Chiefs and Broncos matchup out in Denver this last Sunday. I remember when I gave my viewpoints on this, Eddie and I were very much in agreement that this is a game where the Chiefs just need to go out there and really just put it on the Broncos. Make a statement, because of the fact that you lose a very frustrating game to the Bengals that you should have won. That's been the story in all 3 Chiefs losses this year. Or these were games the Chiefs should have 100% won, and they let a very close victory happen, and then we sit here frustrated figuring out what were the key reasons as to why it happened. So go out here in Denver against an inferior opponent, a team that you've beaten so many times in a row, a team you've dominated so many times in a row, especially during the Patrick Mahomes era. Go out there and make a statement. Get your team right, get the fan base right, get everybody feeling good about the remainder of this regular season, which is so light for the Chiefs, and try and do your best to get that 1 seed back that you lost against the Bengals just a week previous. And I had the Chiefs winning by 25 points. I thought the Chiefs were going to go out there and win 34-9. I nailed the Chiefs score prediction on this one, but things went a little awry, if you will, Eddie, and I'm sure we're going to break that down. In fact, let's go ahead and break that down. The beginning of the game was incredible. I mean, the Chiefs, settled for field goals and back-to-back possessions, but the Chiefs were moving the ball with precision, with ease, and as great as that Broncos defense is, it looked like they just didn't have it in that game. It was not in the cards. Patrick Mahomes was going to do whatever the hell he wanted to do, and he did for the first quarter and a half. So the Chiefs are feeling really good about themselves, going up multiple scores early. Then Willie Gay Jr. has a 47-yard pick six, and at that point the Chiefs are up 27-0. You see Travis Kelce kind of leaning on the bench like this. I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is that game. This is exactly what I wanted to see. This is exactly what we all needed to see. The Chiefs needed this game, a good feel-good game against a divisional foe after a frustrating loss. Man, this is checking all the boxes. Travis Kelce reaches 10,000 career yards. He's the fastest to ever do that at the tight end position. 7th career 1,000-yard season, pushing his already insane record to 5 more consecutive seasons than any tight end ever. To Patrick Mahomes throwing no-look, Williams' white chocolate touchdown pass to Jerick McKinnon. I mean, what could go wrong? It was just a perfect game to start off. I mean, the first, like I said, quarter and change, everything's just going right for the Russell Wilson and the Broncos are just absolutely lost offensively. Jerry Jeudy's out here assaulting refs, but for some reason still allowed in the game. I mean, just everything feels good, feels right. And then the Patrick Mahomes interception started to take place. And look, let me preface this before I sound like I'm being too overly critical on Patrick Mahomes in this one. Because at the end of the game, Patrick Mahomes ended up completing 67% of his passes. He threw for 352 yards and had 3 touchdowns. But it was easily one of the worst games that he's had over the last 3 years. And when you're as great as he is, you're held to a different standard, at least to me. And this is why I'm not okay with a game in which he turned the ball over 3 times regardless of the outcome, because he himself demands more out of himself. He expects more out of himself. Therefore, I'm going to demand and expect more out of him as well. The only reason, Eddie, this game in which the Chiefs were up 27 points ended in a 1-score win for the Chiefs was due to Patrick's terrible decisions down the stretch. 100%. But having said that, and thinking more about it throughout this week, I want to add something else to this, Eddie, and I really want to get your thoughts about it in just a minute. I do think play calling failed Patrick Mahomes this week, and I'm going to explain why. If you go back and look at those 3 interceptions, all 3 were not only great plays by Josie Jewell and Pat Surtain. I'll give them all the credit in the world. Linebackers should not be able to catch passes like Josie Jewell did in that game. That was incredible. Sure. I mean, he caught the ball with his hands. Pat Surtain goes up there and scoops the ball like that. Yeah. Incredible athleticism. Give those guys respect. But all 3 plays were designed for stop routes with nothing over the top. That makes no sense whatsoever. And when you're going up against a defense as talented as the Broncos, you can't put your quarterback in that situation and expect him to come out with a positive play on a consistent basis, even with a quarterback as great as Patrick Mahomes. And I know that Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy work so hard to put Patrick Mahomes in this offense in the best position to succeed during the week when they're game planning and game prepping. But I also know that they get lazy at times in their in-game play calling because it's been evident in not only their pass plays and what pass plays they're drawing up, like I was talking about with the stop routes, but lack of run plays as well. I don't know if you guys saw the stat that I had posted on Twitter a few days ago, but after going up 27-0, the Chiefs ran the ball only 12 times for the rest of the game. There were 2.5 quarters left. The Chiefs still had multiple minutes left in the first half and 2 other quarters to still play, and they ran the ball only 12 more times, and 6 of those runs came on the final drive to run up the clock. So really, the Chiefs only ran the ball 6 times in meaningful minutes. That's absurd. And that's a problem. Especially when you have a running back like Isaiah Pacheco, who's averaging just under 5 yards per rush on the season, and a backup running back like Jerick McKinnon, who was absolutely unstoppable in this particular matchup. And look, I picked the Chiefs to win this game by 25 again. So I was expecting a blowout, but when the Chiefs are up 27-0, I was more than satisfied and would have been totally fine with the Chiefs running the ball 20 to 30 more times after Willie Gay's pick 6. The game was decided. I saw enough. I had the Chiefs going out there and putting a beat down on them. But they had even more of a deficit than I expected. They didn't even let the Broncos get on the Chiefs side of the field at that point. But Andy refuses to go that route, and it infuriates me to no end. It would be one thing if the Chiefs simply couldn't run the ball. If they had the Bucs situation where they can't run the ball. They had a ton of injuries in the offensive line, and they just have an inept running back situation. That is something I can accept and accept it for what it is. But Pacheco has proven himself as a reliable and effective running back. McKinnon is that wily vet that the Chiefs to continue to go to make big plays like he did in this very game. And the Chiefs have a very good run-style offensive line. We saw that in the little dump-off pass to Jerick McKinnon when Trey Pancake Papa Smith dropped 2 different individuals on that single play. So why not go to them and let them put the game on ice? Because I think Andy wants Patrick to break records and win the MVP. That's why. And so do I. So do we all do. I'd love to see Patrick set the new single-season passing record and touchdown record and win MVP. That stuff's awesome. It's fun. But play calling and decisions to avoid the run game is actually hurting that from happening. And the reason why is, let's say the Chiefs would have won that game 34-9 like I predicted. Like they very well could have. After going up 27-0, you run the ball 25 plus times. Patrick's no-look throw to Jerick McKinnon is then the prime focus and highlight of the game. That's what we're talking about all week long about. That play is why he's the MVP. Like that. I mean, the Chiefs just that game was over. Patrick did this play, had a perfect game, throw for 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a great game. That's the focus. But instead, we have to sit here and focus on these 3 useless, careless, and reckless interceptions that followed it and took away almost all of the shine. I know it ended up being the NFL game play of the week. But let's be honest, we weren't focusing on that play for the majority of this game, let alone the majority of this week. So regardless as to why Andy and EB decided to avoid the running game, a very much decided game early out, it didn't make sense and made a game that had no business being stressful. Yes, I know what the responses are going to be and what they have been, Eddie. The Chiefs got out with the W. A win's a win, and they're 10-3. Be thankful. Stop stressing. It could have been worse. But allowing an offense that came into this matchup with the worst offense in the NFL since the 2012 Chiefs, averaging under 14 points a game through 2/3 of the season, they outscore the number 1 rated offense in the Chiefs, 28-27, despite Russell Wilson getting literally knocked out of the game. That dude had a limit on his forehead. You can't sell me on a win is a win. Because none of us felt good about this win. I understand that style points don't matter, especially against teams that you can have close games against. But when you're facing literally the worst offense in a decade, and they outscore you, and the majority of that reason is because your quarterback, your MVP-esque quarterback, is putting your defense in that position with rookie corners, inexperienced corners, that is unacceptable. Yes, the Chiefs scored 34 points. Yes, they won the game. Yes, they've beaten the Broncos now 14 straight times. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is 15-0 against AFC West teams on the road. Yes, the Chiefs have won 10 straight games by guys. What I want to point out is this. What matters at the end of the day, Eddie? Are the Chiefs a Super Bowl team or not, right? That's the new goal. When it was with Alex Smith and Matt Castle and Elvis Gerbach and Rich Gannon, the goal was, let's just be good. Let's get 10 wins, get in the playoffs, see what happens. Now it's, Chiefs need to win the Super Bowl. Chiefs need to get back to the Super Bowl. That team on Sunday did not look like a team that can get into the Super Bowl for various reasons that I just broke down. And it's never a good thing at all when the biggest issue was also the biggest reason you won the game. Patrick Mahomes is why the Chiefs ultimately won the game. But when you have a guy out there that's throwing multiple bad interceptions, putting your defense in a place where they had no business being, and then you have a play calling situation like they do, it tends to make me worried a little bit. Because yes, the rest of the schedule, Chiefs should roll, Chiefs should be fine. But that's not what you're going to be facing in late January and early February if you make it that long. The Chiefs already have so many problems on the defensive side with youth and inexperience. And the Chiefs have, despite not having Tyreek Hill, they're still a great offense, but you still don't have that game breaker, that guy that can go out there and make those types of big plays. So you have to be that much more cautious. And now with the Chiefs having 7 or 8 consecutive games with a turnover and being, I think, -5 in the turnover takeaway category, which is, I think, 28th in the league, they're the only playoff team in the bottom 10 in turnover takeaway difference by far. That's a real problem. That's something you have to be really worried about when the Bengals have beaten you 3 straight times, when the Bills are trying to do everything in their power to finally take you down, when these other AFC teams who might get hot at the very end feel good about themselves coming into Arrowhead. Do we say with any definitivity that the Chiefs are going to come into this game and win the turnover battle? Because I can't. They can't even do it against teams like the Broncos, who are as inept as any offense has been for 10 years. So yes, I'm glad the Chiefs snuck out a victory. But the fact that we have to sit here and say the Chiefs up 27-0 snuck out a victory, saying that sentence makes my stomach curdle a little bit, man. I'm going to be honest with you. I know these are first world problems because there are other fan bases out there right now probably doing their shows that are talking about, man, what is our team going to do in the draft? They're already talking about that. I'd much rather be in the situation we're in. But that doesn't mean these aren't real problems. They're still problems. Americans are very blessed compared to third world countries. But if our power is the winner, is that not a problem? Still a problem. It may not be as bad as, getting chased by lions, but it's still something we have to pay attention to. And this is something the Chiefs have to pay attention to. I'm still expecting them to be where I predicted them to be at the beginning of the year, but there are concerns, Eddie. What did you see in this game that you took away, or some positives, some negatives, overall just viewpoint on this one?
Positives. The offense was doing its thing first quarter, pretty much most of the second quarter, up until the last 5 minutes of the second quarter. Yeah, I love what they were doing. I love the play calling. I said it last episode that I would love to see the Chiefs run with Pacheco, and we were seeing them. We were seeing them give the ball to Pacheco, to McKinnon. They were running the ball. They were doing their thing. McKinnon was being used as a quick slant kind of guy. It was amazing. It was amazing to see, especially that one play where Patrick Mahomes just kind of chucked the ball to McKinnon. That was amazing. It was amazing. But to me, it was overshadowed by Patrick Mahomes' 3 interceptions. In my opinion, as we sit here today, Patrick Mahomes took himself out of the MVP race, and he will no longer be MVP unless Jalen Hurts has 5 turnovers in one game, which it could very well happen, but it is almost unlikely for it to happen with the last 4 weeks of the season. So I think hopefully this puts the whole pressure on Patrick Mahomes winning the MVP aside. I would love for Patrick Mahomes to win the MVP trophy, but I'd rather focus on bigger achievements, which is the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Yeah, those takeaways just killed this team, killed the defense. The defense was rolling, but then you put them in bad situations, pretty much in back-to-back drives. That defense was gassed. It was tired. There's not much I can blame that defense for allowing 14 points right before the half. They went back-to-back drives. I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't know what happened there. I don't know. It was just terrible passes from Patrick Mahomes. They weren't even close to the receivers, in my opinion. I don't think they were even catchable for receivers. The first interception where was it Surtain that put his hand on the on
it
the
was an amazing scoop. Yeah,
it's an amazing scoop. But who was he targeting there? Was it Juju or MVS?
I'd have to go look. I bet it was Juju.
I think
it was Juju.
That ball was not. That was on his Juju wasn't even. He was still running.
Yeah.
Juju was nowhere near the. He could have done something, put his leg there or something. But it was just a terrible pass. Where the linebacker intercepted the ball, he did the little dive thing. That was a good interception too. But he also did not make a good pass. I know Travis Kelce was behind him, but. I don't know what Patrick saw there, because I think Travis Kelce, was double covered in that situation. So that reminded me of Patrick Mahomes last year forcing the ball to Tyreek. I get that Travis Kelce is your number one receiver, your number one weapon. He's probably arguably the best offensive weapon in this in this team's history. You can say Tony Gonzalez, but I still think Travis Kelce I think he outshines Tony Gonzalez, and he's a more of a wide receiver option than Tony ever was. Tony was a great blocker. Tony was a great tight end position. Travis Kelce's more of a hybrid kind of tight end, which I love even more. But yeah, if you're Patrick Mahomes, you can't force the ball to your best wide receiver. I know he can make plays, he can make shit happen, but if it's not there, don't force the ball. Do what you were doing weeks before. Take what the defense was giving you. Run the ball. God damn. We went up 27 points, and the offense just completely forgot how to run the ball. We just stopped.
Well, and that's why I asked about like the play calling, because Patrick Mahomes threw the ball 42 times in this game.
Yeah.
22 of those passes came after the Chiefs were up 27 points.
Yeah.
What is the play calling?
Yeah. If I'm Patrick Mahomes, I would audible out of some place and call myself some. If you're paying attention to the game, if Patrick Mahomes, being the quarterback who he is, call audibles, make run plays. It's like if you don't like the play calling, be like, hey, let's run the ball more. Patrick Mahomes has that kind of drive, that kind of voice in this locker room. He can pretty much say, hey, let's run the ball, and I can guarantee you we'll run the ball. But I think both the coaches, and I think I'm right. I'm agree with Lance on there. I think the coaches and Patrick Mahomes were chasing the MVP
because they knew that this game was going to be won. So let's put up big numbers.
Yeah, so let's put up big numbers. They got him 3 touchdowns. They wanted to give him at least 5 or 6 touchdowns in this game, and it backfired. And like I said, I think that this game took Patrick Mahomes out of the MVP conversation, and hopefully those dumb plays leave with it too. I'd rather focus on the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. I just don't know why this team chooses not to run the ball when it needs to. We're up 27-0. We literally don't need to score any more points. Just cruise to the end of the game. Take it into the halftime, You're like 5 minutes away from halftime. Just take it into halftime. Run the clock down. Just let Pacheco do his thing. McKinnon was doing his thing. Just let them keep doing their thing.
And here's the thing. I'm not even opposed to Patrick still throwing the ball, 10 to 15 more times. Yeah. My point though is I can show the play-by-play on the game. There were 3, 4, 5 straight plays where Patrick's throwing the ball and you're up 3, 4 scores. If the Broncos had an offense that could make it a game on their own, like we're like, all right, we'll battle back. Second half, we're going to come out, we're going to fire.
I would still throw, yeah.
Then I would start throwing the ball a little bit because obviously you still have to respect the other offense.
Yes.
The point, though, is the Chiefs knew this game was over once they went up 27-0. In fact, I said earlier last week, and I felt very confident, Chiefs scored 12 points this game they should win. I feel that they could hold the Broncos under 12 points if they played their A game. So that's the problem I have, Eddie, is that there was no need for this game to ever be close. No, and the only reason it wasn't because the Broncos played some great game. No, it's because the Chiefs were literally handing them possessions of short fields. Yeah. And that's unacceptable, man. So these are problems that the Chiefs can have because now the national narrative, and you really can't refute it, is do the Chiefs have a problem with their pass defense? Because you saw Jerry Jeudy, how many times he was getting open, and to Jerry Jeudy's credit, kid's a really talented player. But it's a real problem when all season long the Broncos can't break out offensively. Like, it'd be one thing if like earlier in the season the Broncos had a 35-point game. Yeah. And like, oh, we've seen them do it before. Like, you can kind of give that excuse. Yeah. But they literally have not scored more than 23 points in a game all season.
Yeah, and they did it.
And they scored 28 in this game. Now, again, the defense was put in some really bad positions.
Yeah, we can't blame the defense at all in those back-to-back. I mean, you get gassed. You get tired as a defense.
Because look at it. Before Patrick's first interception that put the Broncos in prime position, the Chiefs' defense gave up nothing. They weren't giving up first downs. So that's my problem. And I know that the Broncos had a couple third down conversions, but that's been a Chiefs problem forever. But they were not scoring points. Yeah. They weren't even getting close to the red zone. It wasn't until Patrick gave them a lifeless team gave them momentum, that it would even became something to pay attention to.
The whole entire motivation of the team.
And that's my problem with this. And I don't want to sit here and say that I'm complaining too much to the point where I think this team can't win the Super Bowl. This team can still very much win the Super Bowl.
But if they play the same way they played the Broncos, this team is not going to make it far in the playoffs. Obviously, it's a good thing that this is still happening in the regular season.
Yes.
Because we still have 4 games left to where we can fix this.
Yeah.
The Chiefs can fix this. Patrick Mahomes can fix the turnovers. He's had turnovers pretty much almost every game for like the past 4 or 5 games.
Well, the Bengals game, he didn't have it, but you're right. Like every game, the Chiefs are having turnovers.
Yeah,
Travis Kelce had a fumble.
Yeah, it's just turnovers and That's something the Chiefs struggled with last year, early last year, but towards the second half of the season, they adjusted. They held on to the ball a lot more, and we saw what we could do towards the end of the season, going into the playoffs. We weren't turning the ball over. This team is the opposite. This team went from not turning the ball over much in the beginning of the season to now starting to turning the ball over a lot more. With this team can fix this and has to address the turnovers. I don't care if the defense gets turnovers. I don't care. I don't care if our defense gets that that's I'll take it if it happens, but I don't care. We have to stop the offense.
Yeah, in a nutshell, when you're up 27 points against the worst offense in football, under no circumstances should you be throwing the ball 22 times to only 6 real rushes in the second half. That is simply inexcusable. So
just run the clock down. Take it to next week. Now we have the Texans. I hope we weren't focusing on the Texans.
No, that's
you know what I mean? Like, so what the Chiefs have to do now is hopefully run the ball a lot more, because we cannot, as a team, go away from running the ball. If we would have just ran the clock against the Broncos, that's fine. Let it end 27-10, 27-9, 27-14. We don't need to score more points. We're good. Patrick Mahomes has his stats. He has his touchdowns.
And again,
it grows on the MVP.
If they win that game 27-9 or 30-9, they score another field goal.
Yeah.
And Patrick doesn't have any of these interceptions, that actually helps his MVP case.
Yes, it just run. It hurt. And I told Lance, and I texted him during the game, I was like, why do we go away from what's working? Why do we always do this? We did that against the Bengals. We went away from the fucking running game, and I don't know why. I love how we start with the running game. I love how this game, and we see what this does to this offense. It helps create
everything.
It helps them create, and then they go away from it.
And it's even more imperative without Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, it hurts in my eyes to see how we just go away from what's working.
I agree.
I don't know what possesses Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy to go away from what's working. I don't know if they want to, inflate stats for everybody. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they want to get Travis Kelce, to break his own record of receiving yards, which he potentially could if he wanted to. Yep. But we have focus on the game in hand. Don't focus on what you can achieve if this happens in this. No, focus on what you can do in this game, and then focus on whatever else.
Do you remember a couple years ago when we were just doing podcasts, we had Brandon Kiley on our show. He used to work at 610, now he's back in St. Louis. And he used to have this theory about how the Chiefs just need to run the ball through the air. And I was always against that, even though I love seeing Patrick throw the ball, because the Chiefs obviously are going to win and lose games based on what Patrick can do. But this idea of just run the ball through the air is such a fictitious idea in the NFL, because of the fact that NFL defenses are always going to find a way to adjust to that. And the team that always has given the Chiefs the biggest issues over the last couple of years has been the Bengals. What do? They drop 8. Yep. They rush 3 guys against the quarterback, and they tell Patrick, all right, we're going to sit in these zones. Good luck finding an open guy. And what is that? You can't beat teams through the air when they're dropping 8.
Yeah.
That's not a consistent thing.
It's crazy how we went from a running era to a passing era to what we call like now I guess you can say an athletic quarterback era, because the quarterbacks cannot do anything. But we still rely. We're going away from the running back position, and I know you've addressed that before in this show. But I think the running back position is starting to come back and be as important and as crucial to teams contending for the Super Bowl. Why? Because teams have adjusted to those passing quarterbacks and dropping 8 and rushing 3. Now your quarterback can't do really much unless he's very, very, very good with his legs and can create 20 rush yards per attempt, I guess you can say. I think the teams have to start focusing into bringing a good. You don't even have to have a great running game as long as you have serviceable running game to where defenses have to adjust and respect the running game, creating space for plays to happen out in the field.
You remember when the most unstoppable offense in the history of the NFL was the 2018 Chiefs when Kareem Hunt was here?
Yes.
Why was that?
Rushing.
Because he was a dual threat running back that could run and extend drives with his legs on the ground and then go catch passes as well. He led the league in rushing literally the year before with 1,300 rushing yards, almost 1,300 rushing yards. That is why the Chiefs' offense has been so different. And ironically, what was the play that put the nail in the coffin in Super Bowl 54 for the Chiefs?
Damian Williams.
Damian Williams running a touchdown. Damian Williams scored 2 touchdowns in that game. That's the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that obviously Patrick Mahomes is going to be what decides games. Obviously, you're going to need a defense that can make big stops. But you have to have, like Eddie's saying, a serviceable run game, and that's the thing about the Chiefs. They do have it. It's there.
But they don't
so
use
fucking
it.
utilize it. And I know my guy Jason Dunn from the Chief Concern podcast was saying something on the postgame show with me and Marcus Dash this last Sunday about how he feels that there's a lot of lackadaisical things that were, Chiefs have a big victory or they're winning by a lot. They start tinkering with stuff, start playing around and kind of just play. That's fine in games that are going to be over, but when you're giving the teams life...
And it's still the first half.
That's my point, man. It's like you can't get that lackadaisical.
If you can get that you can get that relaxed, but if it's the fourth quarter with like 10 minutes to go and you're up 27 points, I get it. You start trying new things, no-look passes from Patrick Mahomes, running the ball, doing some Pacheco being on the one snapping the ball, or you can start doing those trick plays, kind of get ready into, I guess you can say, the playoffs, to where you cannot do that in the first half of a fucking game. You can't. Focus on the game, put the team away, and then you can start experiencing new things. And to bring back the rushing game, we saw with Kareem Hunt and the Chiefs, that was one of Patrick Mahomes' best years that we've ever seen from a quarterback.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's due because defenses did not know who to defend, because if they drop back, they drop back and defend Patrick Mahomes, guess who's going to make the play?
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt. And we saw what this team struggled with into the late in the season and in the playoffs when Kareem Hunt was gone.
I mean, my God, in that season, against the number 1 ranked defense against the Patriots, they went into New England on Sunday Night Football and put up 40 points with Kareem Hunt. They play the AFC Championship without Kareem Hunt, don't score in the first half, and put up 31 points, but it wasn't enough. Yeah. That's the point I'm trying to make. Chiefs scored 40 points in that AFC Championship.
If Kareem Hunt was in this team, I think would have had 2 Super Bowls in
100%.
Already.
That's the value of running backs.
That's the value of running backs, because teams have to respect your offense. They have to respect the running game and the passing game. So they have to pick and choose what to do. And if the Chiefs, who have like Lance said, a serviceable running game, and in the Broncos situation, like when we were playing the Broncos last week, we had the lead. They could have utilized this running game. It could even help increase Patrick Mahomes' yards, because the Broncos would have to respect the running game, creating openings for receivers to catch passes. I just hate the fact that we go away from what's working. I fucking hate that. I've said it week in, week out, and that's the number one thing I've said since the Chiefs made Pacheco the starter. You have to give him the ball. If you don't, why do you even have a running game?
Right.
So.
And positives before we move on to the Eddie Hour. Some really good performances in this game. Isaiah Pacheco had 16 total touches for 93 yards. Jerick McKinnon, absolute player of the game in my opinion. He had 13 touches, 15 touches for 124 yards, and 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. Juju Smith-Schuster, 9 receptions for 74 yards and a nice touchdown. That was a great play by Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce, although didn't look right, still had 4 receptions for 71 yards. Noah Gray stepped up big time with 3 receptions for 45 yards. And then Harrison Butker, I always like to give him credit because I'll crush him if he doesn't play well. But Harrison Butker made both field goals and was 4 for 4 from extra points. That's all you can ask from him. He did his job. So there, and obviously Willie Gay with the 47-yard pick six. Actually, that won the game. If we're being honest here, that beat the Broncos at the end of the game. At the end of the day. So a lot of positives to take from this one, but there are things that we just got to look at, and I don't like the fact that we have to sit here and talk about the coaching staff when I put my trust in this coaching staff to do the job the correct way, and they really put themselves in a position to potentially lose this game because they also didn't go for 2 when the Chiefs could have went up 14 points as opposed to 13 points, and then they only ended up winning by 6. Had the Broncos had a good drive, score a touchdown, they win the game 35-34. So there's just a lot that I think the Chiefs really left on the bone, man. A lot of meat they left on the bone. Hopefully they don't do that this week, but we ain't going to get to there yet. We ain't going to get to the Chiefs-Texans yet because we got to get to our guy, Eddie, in the Eddie Hour. Eddie, a lot of World Cup stuff going on. We have the World Cup final coming up tomorrow. At 8 a.m., if I'm not mistaken, 9 a.m. A lot of stuff still to talk about. We had a game this today with Croatia and Morocco for 3rd place. I'm sure you got some stuff to talk about with those, but nevertheless, floor is yours, man. What's in the Eddie Hour?
All right, man, let's first talk. Obviously, we've all heard about Steph Curry and the injury that he's dealing with. He's out for the next few weeks, according to what I was reading. I don't know if it's accurate or not. But what do you think? What do you think about that situation?
It's a really unfortunate situation for a lot of reasons. One, obviously, a superstar player like Steph Curry, who's one of the most notable figures in the NBA and in sports in general, goes down. That's going to only hurt the brand. It's going to hurt everybody, including and especially the Warriors, a team that have been. It's so crazy. They show their offensive rating with and without Steph Curry this season. With Steph Curry on the court, they had I think it was a 118 offensive rating. That's the best in the NBA. Without him, they have a 99 offensive rating, which is the worst, I think, in 10 years. So they are literally Steph Curry reliant. And I remember hearing about Kuminga and these other young guys that the Warriors had coming up. They're supposed to be these next guys in line. They've not been that. Jordan Poole got his big contract. He's not lived up to it yet. Draymond Green's too busy worrying about fans and getting ejected out of games and actually going out there and contributing to victories. And Klay Thompson, as much as I love him, as much as I respect him, he's just clearly never going to be the player he once was. And he's in his 30s now. I'm just worried about this team as a collective. I'm actually curious about how long Steve Kerr is going to stay as the head coach because it might be officially over for the Warriors. I know I threw dirt on him a couple of years ago and they ended up winning the title last year, but a lot went right for the Warriors to get back to that victory. And Steph Curry has been nothing short of a great MVP-style player this season. This is one of his best seasons of his entire career. So him going down for any length of time is going to absolutely screw this Warriors team. I actually think he's going to miss, in my opinion, because of a shoulder injury and how much that affects not only his shooting ability, but just the pain tolerance and things of that nature. I'm expecting Steph Curry to miss at least 4 weeks. And with a team like them that I think they're 2-15 on the road this season, they have a big stretch of road games still to go before they get that home stretch. I think the Warriors are done. I think their season's done. I think they need to wrap up shop. I know we haven't even hit Christmas yet, and I know that's when the season really starts. They don't have depth. They're not playing well. And again, they're too Steph Curry reliant now that he's dealing with injuries. And we know that with shoulder injuries, once you have it pop out, it can pop right back out again. I'm worried about this team. I think they're done, and it sucks for Steph because I think this is a wasted season for him. And it's like a sickness around the league because KD, although the Nets are playing better basketball, we all know how this story's going to end. And the Lakers, as great as LeBron has been, they're still like 5 games under 500. So it sucks to see the superstars of the superstars being wasted on bad teams and bad efforts. So yeah, it sucks, man, altogether because the viewing experience alone is going to go down.
Anthony Davis leaves game was it yesterday after 17 minutes, 10 points.
Boy, that's an evergreen statement if I've ever heard one.
With a right foot injury. What does this mean for the Lakers?
It just means more of the same. Anthony Davis is just, he's soft. I mean, I hate to say he's a great player. The dude is having an incredible season. He might be Defensive Player of the Year. And he's averaging like 27, 28 points a game. He's having a great season. But the man cannot avoid injuries. And you saw them have a big win against the Nuggets last night. LeBron James absolutely willed them to that victory. Anthony Davis going down early and just not coming back into the game with the ankle injury. It's so frustrating, man. And furthermore, this bleeds into the team because as great as Anthony Davis and LeBron have been, you're talking about a team having two guys playing at such a high level. One guy is about to be 38 years old, and the other guy is an injury-prone player. You need to have depth around them. And Austin Reeves might be their third, fourth best player. That's not a guy that should be in your starting rotation. Austin Reeves is a fine eighth man, ninth man on a good team. He's out there playing meaningful minutes. This Lakers team is just, as it's currently constructed, is just not good enough. They need to trade Russell Westbrook. They need to go and get a Buddy Hield. They need to go and get a Bogdanovich. They need to go get a guy like that can help spread the court a little bit and give LeBron and AD some fucking help, man, because they're just not good. Pat Beverly has been awful. Dennis Schroeder's not done nearly enough to convince me that he's going to be a guy that's going to be on this team in a couple months. I just, like I said, I think this is just more of the same because I feel as long as AD is going to be on this team, they're always just going to be that much shorter because it just has not worked out over these last couple of years.
I just seen, was it the other day, the Yankees signed Carlos Rodon. I have to look at let me look at the contract real quick. I'm sure people know who that is. Hopefully. I'm trying to see if I can find the contract. Do you happen to have the numbers by chance?
I don't have the numbers. Let's see here. I saw that he did sign with
it was a pretty big okay. 6 years, $162 million deal. That's pretty. So, what is your thoughts on like Carlos Rodon going to the Yankees? Obviously, that was him adding Rodon, and then you obviously kept Judge.
Yeah,
you're extending this team. So, thoughts on that?
Well, Carlos Rodon has been an insanely good pitcher throughout his career. He was great with the Giants. My problem though is a few things. One, Carlos Rodon is already 30 years old. And for the record, whenever teams sign left-handed pitchers, that's usually a good thing because you want to have lefties, especially at the top of your rotation. But, again, he's 30 years old. He's coming off a great season, so is it going to get any better, especially when you transition from the NL to the AL, because the AL is much deeper, much better batting lineups. Going to the AL East where there's a lot of good hitters. I think this is a desperation heave because, like I talked about last week with the Aaron Judge thing, it's about keeping people in the seats. Does it make you a contender? If everything goes right with Carlos Rodon, let's say he starts 35 times, let's say he keeps that ERA under 3 like he did last season. I think his ERA was like 285 or 288. If he can keep that same ERA and the strikeout to walk in ratio, then I can see them being a team that could contend for the AL. But a lot has to go right. Aaron Judge has to stay healthy. You're gonna have to expect that Garrett Cole's gonna pitch better. You're gonna hope that your bullpen finally looks good. I mean, there's just a lot of questions still in this Yankees team. So I think what they're doing is they're putting names to the problem. They're becoming the Cowboys of the MLB, where they're chasing names. They're not really chasing championships, even though that's what they say that they're chasing. I just don't see this team as. I don't think that Rodon, although he does make them a better team. I don't think he makes them better in the sense. Yeah, I think it makes them better in the sense that he's going to be a guy that doesn't. I don't think that makes them a contender. I think he just makes them good. He just makes them a little bit better. I don't see the Yankees as a contender because I don't have belief that Aaron Judge is going to stay healthy. We all know Giancarlo Stanton won't stay healthy. And again, Garrett Cole has not lived up to that contract yet, and I don't know if Rodon's going to.
And what the Yankees need to do is add rotation.
Exactly. Rather
than starting. I think they have good enough starting pitchers, but they just don't have the rotation to complement those starting pitchers.
Right.
Which is, I think, where they're falling short is the rotation. All right, let's talk about the massive news of the San Francisco Giants signing shortstop Carlos Correa for 13 years, $350 million. Obviously, this is a plan B situation for the Giants because they couldn't land Aaron Judge, so they went for the next best thing, I guess.
Yeah, Carlos Correa is an awesome player. So in the macro of it all, you're like, oh yeah, this is a great signing. And I know league-wide, teams have been signing guys these 10-plus year deals. But if you look at the majority of the ones that have gone down of late, with Tatis and Soto and all these other great players, they're usually in their early to mid-20s. So you're going to get out of those contracts when they're in their mid-30s. Mm-hmm. The problem for Correa is he'll be 29 years old this year, which means that they're going to be paying him into his 40s. We all know that Carlos Correa is not going to be playing baseball in his 40s, and if he still is, he's not going to be Carlos Correa of today. So my question is always, especially in baseball when these are fully guaranteed deals, why are you doing that? Why did baseball, of all leagues, do stuff like this? Because you're going to have to pay this money out. In football, you can give Patrick Mahomes a 10-year, $500 million deal, but you only have to pay him real money for 3 to 5 years. Those other years don't really count. Mm-hmm. Same with Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr and these other quarterbacks. They look huge, but they really only last for a few years at best. That's the language that you have to pay attention to. In baseball, these contracts make even less sense because of the fact of age and how much you're really going to have to pay him, which is all of it. So it may help them right now for the next 2 to 3 years because he's still probably got another 3 or 4 years of really good baseball left in him. But when he hits 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, where is he going to be at in his career? I can't expect it's going to be at the top of his game. So you're going to be paying top-level money for a guy that won't be playing at the top level of his game. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't want to be the wet blanket here, but I think this contract's really only going to be good for about 3 to 4 years.
All right, let's talk UFC. I think you said you saw the other card, UFC 282.
Yeah.
Which was last week. At all these fights, which one were you intrigued about the most, and which one do you think disappointed you the most?
I know which one disappointed me the most. It was the Paddy Pimblett fight. Because of the fact that, well, first of all, what's it called? The Alex Moreno, Santiago Ponzinibbio. I forget how to pronounce his name. I apologize so much. That fight was incredible. I felt bad for Alex Moreno because he came into this fight as a late addition to the fight. I felt bad for Santiago because he was supposed to fight somebody else and ends up having to fight Alex Morono last second. But it ends up being a great fight because Santiago ends up knocking out Morono at the very end. It looked like he broke his jaw. I remember seeing that strike. It was an amazing strike. That fight was very entertaining. I think the fight of the entire night was either the Dricus Du Plessis versus Darren Till. Because Du Plessis at the beginning of the fight was beating the shit out of Till, hit him in the side of the head. I thought they were going to call the fight. And then Till kind of like outlasted it, and then he started putting together some good combinations. Du Plessis in the second round was just gassed. He had nothing. I'm like, he's probably going to lose. And then in that third round, I think it was the third round, Du Plessis finally got him to the ground, beating the shit out of him, then choked him out. Great fight. I think that was probably the fight of the night. But I absolutely loved the Bryce Mitchell-Topuria fight because Topuria was supposed to be the guy that was going to take the loss, even though he was 12-0 coming into the fight. But everyone was big on Bryce Mitchell. He's got this big old fan base. He's a flat earther, so he's got that group of people coming at him as well. And then Topuria just dominated him. From the beginning of the fight, just beat the shit out of him and tapped him out, which is Bryce Mitchell's strength. He's actually the grounded pound, or the submission guy. So it was a very impressive win for Topuria, and I wish him nothing but the best moving forward. But let me get to the last two fights. Because, man, I feel I should revise my statement and say that the Paddy Pimblett fight is the one that pissed me off the most, because I think both fights, that and the main event with Jan Blachowicz and Magadan Ankalaev, these two fights were absolutely atrocious in how they were judged. Absolutely atrocious. As much as I like Paddy the Baddy, fun guy, charismatic, really good for the UFC, he lost this fight. When it goes to cards, when it goes to decisions, you don't go by, damage, this. No, you go by the score. Who landed more significant strikes? Who owned the octagon? Who took down who? Things of that nature. Jared Gordon won. If you go by the scores, he won more rounds. But because Paddy is the name and the figurehead and didn't get knocked out, and all that, they gave him the decision, and it wasn't just a decision. They gave him the unanimous decision. Go watch that fight. There was nothing unanimous about that. Paddy did not have a good fight. I don't know how the judges came to that conclusion, and that is why, especially with this whole James Krause thing we talked about last week, man, there might be some stuff that's going on that's even deeper than just a team doing this shit. And then you go to the main event. And I love Jan Blachowicz, however you say his name. I know I'm butchering his name. I apologize. It's hard to me to pronounce his name. I love his story. He lost his belt to Ankalaev. He gets an opportunity to get it back. He's an older fighter, 39 years old, really worked his way back, and I love it. And the beginning of the fight was awesome. He destroyed Muhammad Ankalaev's legs. Tee it off on him. It was so bad, Ankalaev came in with a southpaw. He had to switch because that leg was destroyed. He literally couldn't stand on it. I'm thinking, he's going to finish him. He's going to get he's going to get the interim situation going, and he's going to get the belt back. Muhammad makes some adjustments in the second and third round, and then just starts destroying Jan. Gets him on the ground, beating him up, trying to choke him out, just dominating the fight for 2-3 rounds. They go to this judge's scorecard. It shows that Ankalaev landed, I think, 18 or 19, maybe almost 20 more significant strikes in this fight. And they call it a draw. A split decision draw. So these dudes just beat the living Christ out of each other for a belt. And there's no decision. Ankalaev was furious. It was so bad that Jan, after the fight, said he should have the belt. He should have won. He literally takes the mic from Joe Rogan and says he should have won. And Joe Rogan goes, yeah, I agree. Dana White didn't have an answer for it in the post-fights. Nobody does. Ankalaev's pissed off. And everyone's saying, well, because I was talking to our guy Blake Schneider's, love him to death. But he's like, well, if you look at the beginning of the fight, Jan was dominating. He was landing the damage, all this. That's all true. But once again, when you have to go to the cards, when there was no finish, and it shows me that one guy landed more significant strikes, had like 6-7 takedowns to 0, that guy should win. I had a real problem with the judges in those two big fights, man. Those are the two biggest fights of the night, and they failed the viewing audience so badly in this one. They failed these fighters so bad in this one. If you don't want to take my word for it, go listen to anybody that has any real credible experience in the UFC. Joe Rogan himself was saying that he knows that these fights didn't go the way that they judged it. Just take their word for it. Otherwise, it was an enjoyable card. I love the UFC, but Eddie, they got some real problems, man.
And I think this tied the UFC record, this card, didn't it? With finishes?
Yeah, they had.
I think 10?
Dana White was handing out fight of the night. He was giving $50,000 to like 9 different fights.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 straight finishes.
And that is why I'm so upset, Eddie. Because otherwise, this was a great card. It was so entertaining all the way up to the Patty fight and to the Jan and Ankalaev fight. And those are supposed to be the ones that you're like looking forward to the most. And it's just like they squandered it now, kind of like we talked about Patrick Mahomes throwing the interceptions. Instead of talking about the glorious stuff, we're sitting here talking about this shit. I should be sitting here talking about, bro, this is one of the best cards I've watched in a couple years. Because it honestly was.
It was a good card.
But they absolutely they destroyed it, man.
I'll tell you what, Raul Rosas Jr.
I totally forgot to mention that. I'm so sorry.
I was very impressed with this fight.
18 years old.
18 years old. Signed at 17. He signed his contract at 17. That is insane. If Dana White hands a 17-year-old a contract, you know that dude's a badass.
And he beat his opponent so fast that I almost forgot the fight happened. Because as soon as the fight happened, he's on his back and he just submits him.
Yeah,
it was like, I think it was like,
244 in the first round. And you might read it's it's still 2 minutes 40. No, like he literally put him in the ground within the first minute, and it was just a ground battle.
And he was on his back.
Yeah,
he was like a backpack. Like, he wouldn't let go.
Yeah, he wouldn't let go, and then he finally took him to the ground one last time, and he was able to get him. And I think he passed out, didn't he? No,
he tapped.
He tapped. Yeah, he tapped.
Yeah.
He's a Mexican fighter, fighting out of Las Vegas.
Fought a guy 11 years older than him. 11 years older than him. The guy was in his prime.
And the funny thing is, Jay Perrin, or whatever you say his name, he was talking that shit before the fight. He knew he was 18. He was talking that shit. He was confident he was going to beat that ass. Mm-hmm. And then Raul Rosas was kind of calm, and you kind of says, like, we'll see what, like, you're going to see what happens or whatever when you talk that shit or some shit like that. So that was a very impressive fight. I got to see it on Facebook when it happened, and I got to see the replay. Very, very promising young man. Very, very promising. And
extremely poised.
You know what the crazy thing is about him? He just learned the ground game.
Yeah. He's just learning life.
Yeah.
He's 18 years old.
He was not a ground guy. I think this is his first finish in submission, I think.
Yeah.
He's a very good striker, and for him to add that kind of ground game to his game, whew.
Yep.
He's only 18. He ain't going to stop growing until about 24, 25. So that, and for Dana White to see that potential in a 17-year-old who is now obviously 18, but God, he was still in high school when he signed his fucking UFC contract.
Right.
That's crazy to say. But
hats off to the kid.
Yeah, UFC, that's it. Now I want to just talk about World Cup, and then we'll move on. Obviously, last week we saw the semifinals Friday and Saturday. Obviously, we knew the results from the Argentina-Croatia game on Saturday, so I kind of talked a little bit about that. And then, obviously, that same day we had France versus Morocco. Hats off to Morocco. They made it super far in the tournament. Nope, obviously, I didn't even have them getting out of the group. A lot of people didn't even have them making the semifinal. That is, the African continent should be happy of what just happened, what they witnessed. It is by far the best finish in the African continent's history.
Yeah.
It was a great story. It was great to see that an underdog like that was able to make it that far in the tournament. This shows you that anybody can win. Anybody, if they really try, can get close to winning the World Cup. It is very, very, very hard. But this team should give hopes to other teams around the same level as Morocco that they can compete and they can get close to the prize. I love that story. Just everything about that. I want to congratulate them. They did play today for third place. They ended up losing to Croatia, but nevertheless, finishing fourth in a World Cup, unbelievable. Hats off to them. They did an amazing job. Croatia, obviously, after losing against Argentina and Messi, it was a very, very crushing loss. I think they could have deserved a little bit more. There were some calls that went against their way. I think there were some calls that went to favor Argentina, but I think overall it was a very evenly matched game. The first goal came and Croatia fell apart. They did not know how to defend, how to take back the control of the game that they had, and it kicked them in the ass. But now they went for third place today this morning. They ended up winning 2-1 against Morocco. Great story from Luka Modric, who is arguably one of the best midfielders to ever play the game. He carried this team to a final last year, last World Cup, and now to a third place finish. Sad to say that it was his last World Cup, his last game in a World Cup, but man, he gave it his all and it showed. And again, hats off to Croatia as well. They did an amazing job. France, my God, what can I say about France? It's they're a powerhouse, man. They literally got riddled with injuries before the tournament started. I think they were down 6 to 8 starters that they lost. 67 starters that they lost before the World Cup even began. This tells you just how much depth this team has. To be back into a World Cup final, it's not easy to make it to a final. It's not easy. Especially, obviously, 4 years. A lot can happen in 4 years. A lot can happen. Teams can. Let's put this into perspective. 4 years ago, how were the Chiefs to 4 years now to now? It's a completely different team. And for this team to kind of hold the court together with Mbappe, you got Varane, you got Hugo Lloris, who is the goalie, and to deal with injuries the way that they dealt, it's unbelievable. This team is amazing to watch. Man, now we got the World Cup final tomorrow at 9 o'clock. By far, that's going to be the most viewed sporting event in the next 4 years till the next one comes.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, they're expecting around 1.7 to 2 billion people to watch the World Cup final. That's crazy to even think that 1/4 of the 1/4 of the world's population's probably going to watch this game tomorrow.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable the amount of people that they're expecting to watch this game. This game is going to break records. You have two amazing stories going against each other in a World Cup final. You couldn't ask for more.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask for anything better. Yes, you could have had Ronaldo in there, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Messi. It would have been a great story, but I think this is even a far better story.
Yeah.
Because you have Mbappe, who is 23 years old, 23 or 24 years old. He is on the verge of becoming the youngest player to have 2 World Cups. That's insane.
Talk about historic, yeah.
That's insane.
It's Pele stuff, man.
Yeah, that and what I talked about last week is that there's only been two teams that have won back-to-back World Cups, and that's Italy in the 1930s and Brazil in 1958 and 1962, I believe. That's insane. That's super hard to do.
Yeah.
Winning back-to-back World Cups, that on its own is an incredible story. Them just achieving the final to defend their title. It's like when the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl again to play the Bucks to defend that title that they won the year previous.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very hard. And you just making it to the Super Bowl, you know how hard it is making it to the Super Bowl. Just imagine a World Cup tournament that happens every 4 years, and obviously you have to account for like the aging veterans and the new ones coming up. It's very, very hard, and for France to do it, dealing with all those injuries, amazing. Yeah. And on the other hand, you have another amazing story of Argentina and Lionel Messi's last game in a World Cup. He can come back and try and play when he's 39 years old in the U.S., but at that point, what for? Just ride the bench? The story is, can Lionel Messi win the trophy that has eluded him his whole career? Can he finally lift a World Cup? This could potentially solidify Lionel Messi as the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time. You can argue Pele has 3 World Cups, yeah. You can argue Maradona has a World, yeah. But Messi's a far better athlete, a far better competitor. He's a creator of the game. He's a finisher of the game. Maradona was a finisher. Pele was a finisher. They weren't creators. Messi has the quality of both. A creator and a finisher. We've seen this World Cup that Messi has tied Diego Maradona's assist record. Now he is 1 assist away from breaking the record. It's incredible to see something like this happen in a World Cup final. You can either have a back-to-back champion, or you can have arguably a player be solidified as the greatest of all time. You best believe I will be tuned into this son bitch tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I am not missing this World Cup final for anything. It's gonna be a very, very good game. I think both teams are very, very good. I think this game could potentially go into overtime, and we could potentially see penalty kicks tomorrow. I think that's how good and competitive this game is gonna be. I think both teams are gonna be close to scoring goals in the first in the first half. I think in the second half, that's when we'll start seeing goals. I think this could potentially end in a 2-2 draw, and then we're gonna go into overtime. Then we're gonna go into PKs. I think PKs is where Messi and Argentina wins, in my opinion. That's who I'm picking. That's who I've stuck with since the beginning of the World Cup. I've said it here. If you don't believe me, go back into the episode right before the World Cup started. I picked Argentina to win, and I'm almost there. So tune in tomorrow, even if you don't like soccer, even if you don't like anything like that. Tomorrow's game is very, very important to both countries, and it's going to be a very competitive game. I cannot wait for tomorrow. And that's it for me.
Hell yeah, man. Good Eddie hour. Appreciate that each and every week. And I am very much looking forward to this World Cup as well. France is a great story. Mbappe's a great player. I'm really still pulling for Messi to finally get his World Cup because I feel like it's just right for this to happen. And Mbappe's going to have at least 2 or 3 more opportunities to get another World Cup. So I want to see Messi get this one. Finish out on top. Argentina deserves it. He deserves it. I'd love to see that happen. And again, appreciate the Eddie hour, Eddie, as always. Let's get to some Week 15 NFL
God,
picks.
trying to finish the season already?
Oh man, what the hell am I trying to do over here? Week 17. I even put Week 17. Week 15 picks. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. We already posted on our social media account the 3 games today. So if you want to see our scores, who we have, go ahead and look us up on Facebook, the Spoken group, and on Twitter at the Spoken Pod. You can see where we actually put those games, who we see winning. But I want to get to 3 games on the Sunday slate that I think are really big games, really important games across the league. Maybe not so much for the Chiefs, but just in the league, and I think they're fun to talk about. So we have the Detroit Lions visiting the New York Jets. Why is this an important game? Because I think if the Lions win out, or at least win 3 of their next 4, they're going to make the playoffs. Because the NFC is just so bad, and they've played really well, especially at home. And the Jets are 7-6, still fighting for a playoff spot. Not currently in the playoff picture, but we know how crazy things change so quickly, especially the AFC side of things. I think the Jets are coming out here wanting to fight as hard as they can to get back in the playoff picture. Too great of a defense not to play. Mike White, their best quarterback, got injured with a rib injury against the Bills last week. He's out of this game. Joe Flacco is the second starting quarterback, or the backup quarterback in this game, which brings back Zach Wilson, which I'm not big on. I think he's a bust, and I don't think the Jets want him either. Having said that, this is a game in New York against, like I said, a desperate game for both teams. The Lions right now are playing better football overall. But the Lions are a team that are so night and day different on the road and at home. So at home, and this is their scoring totals at home this season, the Lions. 35, 36, 45, 27, 15. It was the Green Bay game. It was a really weird game. 25, 40, and 34. But on the road this season, they've not been nearly as good. 24, 0, 6, 31, 31, and then... Yeah, man, so they've only played a few road games this year, and they literally got eggshelled in one game and then put up 6 the next. So they've been a much better scoring team at home. The Jets are a defense that are not only great. I think they're top 6 in total defense. I think they're 3rd in total defense, 4th in pass defense, sack rate they're 4th, interception rate 6th. They're a great defense. But this is a matchup that's interesting because of the fact that Jared Goff has faced Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator many times back when he was at the 49ers and Jared Goff was with the Rams. So Jared Goff knows this defense, but Saleh has actually owned Jared Goff a lot. They lost their last 4 games against the 49ers when they both were back at their respective places. And there was even a game where Robert Saleh held Jared Goff to a career low 78. Was it 78? Yeah, 78 yards. He held him to 78 yards in a single game. They're 3-4 in 7 games as a starter against Saleh's defense. Held him to 78 yards and 1 loss in 2019. So I'm expecting Robert Saleh to have a great defensive game plan against Jared Goff. Being on the road, not in Detroit, out in the climate, it's going to be a cold game. This is going to be a really ugly one because I'm not expecting Zach Wilson to have a great game by any means. But I do expect the Jets to come out here and win this game. As it's currently standing, if I'm not mistaken, the Jets are a 1-point favorite, so it's a pick 'em essentially. The over-under is 43.5. I have it way under that. I don't think these teams are going to score a bunch of points. I think the Jets are going to really ugly this one up, keep it close, and I think Jared Goff's going to struggle in this one, and I have the Jets winning this game by more than 1 point.
All I'm going to say is it's a complete difference between the Jets defense and the 49ers defense. And the Lions have won 5 of the last 6 games, I believe. They are on a roll. and they very well know that they if they win this game, they can make that push for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think the Jets, dealing with not knowing who their starting quarterback is pretty much, and the whole situation with bringing back Zach Wilson, Mike White dealing with an injury, all the drama that's going on around there. I think it's a perfect situation for the Lions to go in there and beat the Jets. I think the Lions are a far better team this late into the season. I think the Lions peaked at the right time, and I think the Lions are going to make that push into the to get into the playoffs. And I think that this is where it starts, and I think the players are very well aware that they have to win this game. It's a must-win for the Lions, and I think they will do just that. Yes, Robert Saleh can scheme against Jared Goff all he wants, but like I said, that's a complete difference between the 49ers defense, who, to my opinion, were elite with Robert Saleh when the 2020 Super Bowl. Again, that was an elite defense. To the Jets, good defense. I think Jared Goff can go in there and have a great game, throw for like 3 touchdowns or something like that. Over 250, 300 yards. This is a game for this is a statement game for the Lions if they want to make that push for the playoffs. And I think it's gonna start here, and I got the Lions over the Jets 34-27.
All right. I like it. Then another game I want to point to, it actually has to do with the AFC West. The Raiders are hosting the New England Patriots. Now, this isn't a game where I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The Patriots are a team that can't score very well. They have a decent defense. They have a top 10 defense, but they haven't faced a lot of really good quarterbacks, and when they haven't played very well, especially of late. And I think the Patriots are finally realizing that having an offensive coordinator matters. And wouldn't you know, they're finally going up against their former offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels. Now, I'm not somebody that believes Josh McDaniels is a good head coach whatsoever. But one thing this guy is really good at is drawing up plays, scheming plays. And the Raiders are getting healthy at the right time. They get Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. They're expected to be back this week. Not to mention the fact that Josh Jacobs, the running back, is leading the entire NFL in rushing. Derek Carr is coming off a bad game. Josh McDaniels knows that this is a game where he really wants to make a statement against his former team. They know what he's got, but he also knows what they got defensively. I think he's been an assistant with Bill Belichick on and off for about 14, 15 years. And Bill Belichick understudies, unlike Andy Reid, have done actually pretty well against Bill Belichick. He's right around 500 against his former assistants, whereas Andy Reid's dominated his assistants. This is going to be a close game, but I'm going to give the better quarterback, better skill players, and the home team an advantage in this one. I think the Raiders are going to pull out this victory. Not that it's going to really matter in the grand scheme of things, but I think they're going to make just enough plays offensively. Mac Jones is going to get pissed off at Matt Patricia again. The defense for the Patriots will play fine, but against a rush attack like Josh Jacobs, who is still battling injuries, but he's still been very effective, and a team that, like I said, got healthy at the right time, at home, feeling good about themselves, I'm expecting the Raiders to pull out a close victory in this one. I'll give them a 3 or 4 point victory in this one.
Yeah, I got the Raiders winning this game as well. I think the Patriots not having an offensive coordinator is going to hurt them, and we've seen it week in, week out that it's hurting them. That having an offensive coordinator is crucial for every team in the league. You see the quarterback and Matt Patricia going at it and yelling at each other. That's not good for the team, and especially in a moment like towards the end of the season where the games matter even more to teams. Because for some reason, the end of the season, even 3-win teams start getting better.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I don't think Mac Jones is a good quarterback. He's a decent quarterback. I don't think he's what everybody expected, and I think he's shown that in this 2 seasons that this two of his late seasons.
Yeah.
I just think Derek Carr and this Raiders offense is a lot better than what the Patriots have. And the Raiders defense, I think, could potentially be better than the Patriots defense this year, with Max Crosby just, being an absolute animal. And I think that's going to be a big part of the game. The defense scheme. How do they defend Mac Jones? But I think they're going to do good enough. I think Max Crosby's going to get in there and do his thing like he always does, week in, week out. But like you said, the Raiders are getting healthy at the right time. They have the best running back in the game. So I got the Raiders winning 24-17.
Okay. I like it. And then we have the game I want to touch on the most, the third and final game I want to talk about. We'll give our full slate of picks as we do every Sunday before the games kick off before noon. The Titans are visiting the Chargers at SoFi. So the Chargers are banged up. They don't have Derwin James in this game, or at least they're saying he's doubtful with a quadricep injury. Big part of their defense that's been otherwise terrible this year, but Derwin James has always been a great player since he walked into the league. So that'll be a big loss, but the Titans are a team that have twice as many injuries and will more than likely have twice as many players out. And if you look at their current stature right now of players that are actually out, I mean, they have Amani Hooker out, Hilliard's going to be out. The better quarterback. I guess you want to say home field advantage. I don't think it's going to be much of a home field, but they're going to be home. They're going to be feeling good about themselves after a nice victory they just had this last week.
Especially against the Dolphins.
Yeah, which is why I'm picking the Titans still. So,
you got me on that one.
Look, man. This is when the Chargers will always shit their pants. When they should win. When they are expected to win. They're 3-point favorites in this game. They have, like I said, quarterback advantage. They have the health advantage. They're at home. They should win this game, which is why they're not going to. And here's the reason why. I'm not just going to say that and just leave it there. The advantages that the Titans have, and it's glaring, is coaching and run game. See, I'm going to reference the Chiefs game as to why I'm picking the Titans in this one. So the Chiefs obviously won that game a few weeks ago against the Titans 20-17. But there was context to that game. Obviously, Malik Willis played, not Ryan Tannehill. They had a string of injuries of guys out, including Amani Hooker and Hilliard and other players that could have played that game. Guys got injured in that game for the Titans. All those things, and it was a 3-point win in overtime. It was not a game that was decided early. The Chiefs didn't have that game wrapped up. Titans played their asses off in a very hostile environment, in a place they've not had a lot of success, and again, with their backup quarterback. And they still had 172 rushing yards in that game. Patrick Mahomes is what saved the Chiefs. Because as bad as he played in certain instances, he had 509 yards of offense by himself and 2 touchdowns. I'm not expecting Justin Herbert to go for 509 yards in this game. And even though he's got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back, Austin Eckler's healthy and having a really good season, Derwin James is going to be missed in this one big time because they are already the 29th rushing defense in the league against Derrick Henry. The Chiefs, as bad as they've been on defense at times this season, are one of the best rushing defenses in the league. And Derrick Henry still did what he did against them. He had over 115 rushing yards by himself in that game. I'm expecting Derrick Henry to have a monster game, and this is what I'm expecting the Titans to run the time of possession. I'm expecting Justin Herbert to shit his pants. You know why that is? Because for the first time in a long time, Justin Herbert's got expectation on him. Everybody loves his talent, super talented kid, doing all these great things, putting up numbers, but what have they amounted to so far? Nothing. And Brandon Staley is not a head coach that can string together back-to-back good game plans. He had a good one last week. Am I expecting him to outcoach Mike Vrabel? No. This is going to be a close game. I trust the coaching staff on the Titans side far more. Titans are on a 4-game losing streak. Am I expecting them to lose 5 straight games? No. I think they upset the Chargers in this one. We're going to sit here and go, how did they pull this off? Got all these players injured. What the hell is Brandon Staley and Justin Herbert doing? And if we know anything, it's always been the Chargers to come that close to succeeding, but always end up failing. I am picking the upset. I think the Titans squeak out a 2-3-point victory in this one, and it's going to blow the. It's going to start really ramping up those rumors about Sean Payton taking over as the Chargers head coach. It's going to really start ramping that up because I think Brandon Staley, if they lose this game, Brandon Staley will get fired because if they lose, the Chiefs clinch the AFC West, and the Chargers more than likely won't become a playoff team.
Man, Sean Payton with that Chargers team, that's something the Chiefs do really have to pay attention to because Sean Payton...
make them a lot more respectable.
My
yes.
God. The way he was able to extend Drew Brees' career the way he did,
I know, man.
Okay. I know you picked the Titans. I'm picking the Chargers in this game. Why am I picking the Chargers? And you nailed it right before you started ranting about the Titans. The health. I think that the Chargers are the healthier team going into this matchup. I think Williams and Keenan Allen, by far the best receivers in this game.
Yeah, Traylon Burks is out too. For the Titans.
So there's no weapons for the Titans to even they have to rely on that running game. If the Chargers can kind of control Derrick Henry, not a lot. I mean, he's gonna get his, but if they don't allow him to get into the end zone and stuff like that, this should be a good game for the Chargers. I do have him winning by 7 points. I do have him winning 21-14. I do think it's going to be a hard-fought battle within the first half. I think it's going to be a very, very low-scoring first half. We might see a 7-7 first half, and I think going into the second half, we're going to see the Chargers take the lead, and then we're going to start seeing the Titans go away from the running game, kind of like what they did here in Kansas City. They benched Derrick Henry and just focusing on, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think we're going to see towards late in the second half, we're gonna see the Chargers take the lead, and the Ryan Tannehill, the Titans are going to try and catch up with passing the ball, ignore Derrick Henry, ignore the running game, and I think that's where it's going to bite him in the ass, and I think the Chargers are going to go and win this game.
I could be very well right, but if I'm not, you better believe I'm posting this shit when it happens. You better believe I'll bring this shit up. That is like I said, our Sunday slate picks. We've already put our Saturday slate picks out there. Let us know what you guys think. If you guys have any picks out there that you think you see happening, any upsets, any big wins, whatever you got when it comes to the matchups, let us know. Hit us up on our YouTube channel. Let us know what you guys have going on. It's time to get to the Chiefs and Texans. It's time to preview this game. This is a game that, quite frankly, to be honest with you guys, as much as I love watching the Chiefs each and every week, and I always go through all my research and really start to break this one down and really just give it a nice look over and, make it an interesting. We do this. This is what we like to do. We like to talk about, what could happen. What could take place in this game that changes the infrastructure. What ways the Chiefs can win this game or lose this game. It's always a fun situation to talk about, but this one's very simple to me. In fact, this is a game everyone circles the Bengals game and circles all these other games on the schedule. This is a game I circled for one specific reason. It's the first game Patrick Mahomes is ever going to play in Texas as a professional athlete. He's never played a game in Texas to this point. It's the first time he's done it, which means that he's going to want to go out there and show off and show out, and I get it because his family's going to be there. He's got a lot of old friends, high school, college buddies will probably be there.
He said this is the game where most of his, he's going to have the most people he's ever had at a game.
And I'm sure he will show out in this game. I'm sure he'll have really good numbers. What I'm focused on in this one is something you and I actually briefly talked about before the show. And Trevor, before he left off, before he headed out today, we talked about it as well. I want the Chiefs to finally do what they haven't done in over 2 years. Remember the Bills game in Buffalo, where the Chiefs ran the ball 46 times. I'm not saying I want to see the Chiefs run the ball 46 times. What I am saying, though, is I want to see the Chiefs run the ball 30 times in this game. This is not a game by any means, for any reason, that the Chiefs should not have a 2-3 touchdown lead going into the second half. The Chiefs should have a 27-point lead at some point in this game, just like they had last week. And if they're going to learn from that previous matchup against the Broncos, who actually have a great defense, then learn it this week and put this team away and get out of this game unscathed. Don't make this stressful. There's no reason in the world against a 1-12 win team, 1-12 team, to make this one stressful at all. There's going to be a ton of Chiefs fans out there too, because that's not a big drive, not a big flight. People can make the trip. They will make the trip. You'll see a lot of Chiefs fans in this game. Because there's also a lot of Chiefs fans out there because they converted once Patrick Mahomes became a Chief. I've seen it myself. You look at the injury report. Outside of Chris Jones' illness and Kadarius Toney being questionable, I'm not expecting McColl to play this game. I don't think the Chiefs are going to activate him. I don't expect Kadarius Toney to play either. I think they're just trying to get him back into practice. They have him as questionable. I'm not expecting him to play. I am expecting Chris Jones to play. He is sick. That's been a thing that's been going around. Trust me, I know. But it's been going around. I do expect Chris Jones to play in this game, though. I don't know if he'll play a bunch. I think he'll probably be on a snap count. I think Travis Kelce will probably be on a snap count as well, because those two guys should not have to play long minutes going deep into this game. This is a team the Chiefs should be able to blow out and blow out easily. This is not a game I think the Chiefs are going to overlook because, like I said, they had a frustrating, stressful victory last week when they shouldn't have. I know this is the third consecutive road game for the Chiefs. This is a very bad team that is not only bad, but is a team that is insanely banged up. So their offensive lineman, Kenyon Green, is out. Derek Stingley, their best defensive back, is out. Damian Pierce, their only piece of offense that's been consistent all year, the rookie running back, is out. Steven Nelson, the former Chiefs defensive back, is out. Their offensive lineman, Justin McCray, is questionable. And then Brandon Cooks, their only great wide receiver, and Nico Collins, their other wide receiver, are all out. So not only is this team bad,
Depleted.
there's nobody out there. Who's Davis Mills going to throw to? Who's going to hand the ball off to? Under no circumstances can this be a close game. Under no circumstances can the Chiefs let the Texans get into the 20s. This needs to be a 24 to 30 point beatdown. This is a no excuses game. I will not accept a victory that's under 20 points. None whatsoever. We cannot come into episode 198 next week, Eddie, talking about, the Chiefs squeaked it out, found a way to beat a one-win team. No. Go out there, Patrick, throw three touchdowns in the first half, show off to your friends. I'm good with it. I want to see you go out there and showcase. Go out there and prove that you can be the MVP. Go out there and do that. Go throw for 250 yards, 3 touchdowns in the first half, and when the second half starts, Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon need to be running the ball. I'm okay if Patrick throws the ball 10, 15 times because you still got to throw a little bit of a balance because there's still 2 quarters to play. But I need this team to go out there and run the ball and fix some of the problems they have because Davis Mills is going to be throwing all game. Kyle Allen, if he plays, he'll be throwing the ball all game. So this will be a good game for our rookie quarterbacks to go out there and make some things work. Get Joshua Williams, get Jalen Watson, get these guys acclimated and let them go out there and experience some of these things because they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. But the Chiefs need to go out there, put a beat down early and often. I want to see a first drive touchdown. That is something the Chiefs have struggled with so much this year, is on their first drive, they don't score touchdowns. Go out there, score 7, score 7, score 7, score 7, go up 28 to 3, 28 to 7 in the first half, and then beat the shit out of this team. Get out of this game unscathed. This is a no excuses game for me. Eddie, what do you think about this one?
Yeah. I think this game, the Chiefs have to learn how to run the ball in this game. I agree with you on that. I think this is a running backs game. I think Patrick Mahomes still going to have his numbers. I think he's going to have over 350 with 4 touchdowns in this game. I think he's going to have an amazing game, obviously showing off to his family, friends, loved ones. There's no excuse, like you said, for the Chiefs to start trailing in this game, to get this game closed, to keep this game 3-point game. No need for that. This has to be a statement game saying we don't give a fuck that you're a 1-win team and we're going to get,
Right.
This is, we're going to crush your dreams. We're going to make you the first overall pick in the NFL draft. I don't give a fuck kind of game. The Chiefs can't go in there and be like, we're up 27 points. Let's just take the foot off the pedal and then get 3 and outs and start punting the ball and doing dumb stuff like Damian Williams snapped from the back. And we cannot have those kind of cute situations when it's a close game, or don't go away from what's working. The running game. I do expect Pacheco in this game to go over 100 yards. I think this game has to be that game where he goes over 100 yards again. This will be his only second game in his career with over 100 yards, and I think he's going to score 1 or 2 touchdowns in this game. This is that game. The Chiefs have to understand that running the ball is crucial. That running the ball creates space. They have to, because if they don't, they're going to keep this game close, and it's going to look ugly. We don't need that. We don't need that right now. especially going into the playoffs, especially this late in the season. We cannot have that. And we can't sit here and say, well, this could be a trap game for the Chiefs. For who? The Seahawks? Are we really worried about the Seahawks now?
Right.
They've lost to like 6 straight. Like, come on now. I know those streaks have to come to an end, but if you're the better team, there's no way you can allow that to happen. And I think the Chiefs can allow this game to be close at any point. The only close this game should be is and kickoff. I think that's the closest the game should be in the whole game.
Right.
It's kickoff. Yeah, the Chiefs have to go out there and make a statement. They have to prove to us, the fan base, that they are a team that's a Super Bowl contender.
The Texans are 30th in points per game. They're 26th in points allowed per game. They're dead last in yards per game. They're 26th in passing yards per game, 28th in rushing yards per game, 30th in time of possession, 31st in third down efficiency. This is a terrible team, guys. And here's the thing. When they play good offenses, they've given up a lot of points. For instance,
Except the
when
Cowboys.
they played the Chargers, they gave up 34. When they played the Raiders, a decent offense, they gave up 38. Played the Eagles 29. When they played the Dolphins, they gave up 30, and the Dolphins started that game 30-0. So they were coasting the rest of the game. And then they played the Cowboys last week and gave up 27. But see, the reason why that game was close, and it was 27-23, and the Texans had a chance to win the game, was what reason? The same reason the Chiefs continue to allow teams to hang around. Turnovers. The Cowboys had 3 turnovers in this game. Dak Prescott was horrible in this game. Their defense had to save them from the horrendous Texans. So the Texans are going to come in this game going, hey, we hung with the Cowboys. Patrick Mahomes cannot allow these dumb penalties to occur, because I know what's going to happen. Patrick Mahomes is going to score a couple easy touchdowns in this game, and then he's going to get loose, and he's going to start getting a little careless. You throw that first pick, all of a sudden, because you know the Texans pay attention. They're going to be like, we just saw what the Broncos did last week. We're just as good of an offense, and we're both terrible. We can go out there and make something happen. We're at home. Get our crowd involved. Let them feel good about things for a second. Hey, man, we might be able to answer back. Under no circumstances can the Chiefs allow this to happen. No. They have got to get these turnover problems down now against bad teams. Keep bad teams bad. The Chiefs did not let a bad team be bad last week. They let them look good. And that's shameful, it's pitiful, and it's unacceptable. You cannot do that back-to-back weeks. Key players to this game, or key figures to this game, I've kind of changed the rules because I think I've added a lot of things to the matchup, key players or key matchup players. For me, it's simple. I'm not even going to use a defensive player when it comes to this one, because I don't think we need to put any pressure on the defense. They should be able to go out there and dominate this horrendous Texans offense. For me, it is Patrick Mahomes' recklessness, his own mentality of how to play this game. Go out there, like I said, look good, make the crowd, all that stuff. That's fun. Don't be careless with the ball in this one. And the coaching staff has got to back him up with good plays. Do not, when you're up 28-0 or 28-7, don't be out there just wielding the ball around. Run the goddamn ball. Get out of this game. You want Patrick Mahomes to win the MVP? You want to get that 1 seed back? Play smart. Mm-hmm. Stop playing like it's air raid offense. This is not college football. This is the NFL. And NFL teams, Lovie Smith, although he's not a great head coach, this man led a team to the Super Bowl in 2006 with Rex Grossman as his quarterback. Eddie, do you even know who Rex Grossman is? Fucking terrible. That's who he was. He was a horrible quarterback. He led the league in interceptions that year. I think he had like 22, 23 interceptions. They got to the Super Bowl that year and made Peyton Manning work for that victory because they had a great defense. Lovie Smith, I respect that man with everything in me. He's a hell of a defensive mind. He's been in this league as long as he has for a reason. And he's got one of the coolest beards of all time. So, the Texans are going to come in this game not feeling good about themselves. Probably not even expected to even get close. But you cannot give that team life, because if you give a team like that life, this is the NFL. This game can be closer than it ever should have been. Chiefs cannot have that this week. Coaching staff, Patrick Mahomes, do your damn jobs. Go out there, put together an MVP game plan so your MVP can play like an MVP. Eddie, who are your key players?
Give me Juju. This is a perfect situation for Juju. This is a perfect game for Juju and Patrick Mahomes to connect and do their thing. Juju can very well go out there and put up the numbers that he wants, that he pleases with this kind of defense. It's a terrible team. I really hope we're not downplaying this team too much, and they come out and score on their first drive, and then make the Chiefs. You better not be knock on wood. Yeah. Yeah. This is a game where Juju should go off. He should have over 100 receiving yards in this game. This team allows it. So why not go out there and do it? Run the ball. I'm going to go... and my second one is Pacheco. Run the ball. Have him do his thing. Let him run the ball aggressively. This is the team where we can do it against. The Broncos have a great defense. And we still put up good numbers. So I think this team should go out there, run the ball. After you have a comfortable lead, just run the ball, run the clock. And like you said, get out unscathed, get out healthy. There is no excuse for this team to not have a receiver over 100 yards and a running back over 100 yards. This team is very capable of doing that, and I think they will. So my two players are Juju and Pacheco.
Like it. When it comes to score, again, there should be no reason in the world why the Chiefs don't score a lot of points in this one. And I'm saying like early in the game and then kind of coast, and then they'll probably run into another touchdown or two. I'm going to predict that the Chiefs score 28 points in the first half and then coast the rest of the game. And I think that it's going to be one of those games where it looks like the Chiefs put up a lot of points throughout the game, but they really didn't. I think that it's going to be Patrick Mahomes holding a clipboard with a visor in the fourth quarter. Chad Henne's playing. Hopefully Ronald Jones will be active and he can play in the fourth quarter as well and help them just kind of run into this next victory. But I'm expecting the Chiefs, and this is the first time I've done it in a while, I'm expecting the Chiefs to score over 40 in this one. Because like I said, I think they're going to set themselves up really well for the second half. I think they score another touchdown in the second half and push them up 35. And then I think they get a couple field goals for the rest of the game, putting them at 41. So I'm going to predict that the Chiefs roll the Texans in this one 41-17. That's my score prediction.
I expect the Chiefs to go out there and do their thing, like I've said. And with you, I'm on board. I think this is a perfect situation where we can drop 40 points again. It is not crazy that we dropped 40 points on a team this bad when we dropped over 40 points against arguably the best defense in football in the 49ers. So I got this team winning 42-21. Why do I give the Texans 21 points? Like you alluded to, I think fourth quarter we're gonna have nothing but second and third string players in both sides of the ball, and I think that defense will allow a couple of touchdowns to the Texans starting lineup, because I think the Texans are going to keep their starters through the whole game. So I do think they get some points in what do you call that? Like garbage time. Yeah. So that's the only reason I have them at 21 points. We've seen the Chiefs give up points in garbage time. We've seen it. It's going to happen. So, yeah, I got it 42-21.
I like it. Let us know what you guys think. What's your score prediction? How do you see this game going? What do you think is going to take place? Anything you guys have when it comes to Chiefs-Texans or any prediction that you have for any game this week, hit us up on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Get the notification link going. And we love to hear from you guys. Eddie, we have one more order of business to get to. What's it called? Hold this L. Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's in the world of sports are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, whoever is holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, who's holding the L for you this week, and why is it F1?
I wish it was F1. I miss F1. But who's holding my L this week? I think I'm going to give it to Colin Cowherd. Why am I going to give it to Colin Cowherd? I believe it was yesterday's episode. I read this on Twitter. It was yesterday's episode where he said that the Raiders should trade Derek Carr, and that he expects the Raiders that they could potentially get a first and a second for Derek Carr. I wonder what team is desperate enough to give you a first and a second for Derek Carr. I don't think there's any team out there that would give you a first. A second, I can buy that. Derek Carr's a good quarterback. He is not worth a first and a second.
Right.
No. I can see a second and fourth maybe being traded for Derek Carr. I can see that. I can see that potential. There is no way any team should trade for Derek Carr for a first and a second. And I think the Raiders shouldn't trade Derek Carr. I think they're gonna ride with Derek Carr until the end, and I think that's bad for the Raiders. I think the Raiders should move on from Derek Carr, and I think Derek Carr should move on from the Raiders. I think they're both.
They're not good for each other.
They're not good for. They're not meant for each other. I'm not saying Derek Carr's a bad quarterback, but they definitely should move on from each other. Derek Carr can very well go to another team and succeed. He's a good quarterback, but I don't see him being a first and a second. There's just no. Nothing tells me that he's worth a first. I don't know about you guys. I mean, you guys probably think I'm dumb, I'm stupid, but I've seen Derek Carr through his entire career, obviously because he plays in the AFC West. He had one good season to where we all were like, he might win MVP.
Yeah.
But then he got that leg injury
6 years ago.
Yeah. 6 years ago. I mean, he's good enough. He's just not that great.
Right.
So if I'm any team trading for a quarterback, I am not trading a first for Derek Carr. I don't know what Colin Carr is thinking. Some of his takes are pretty fucking wild, and this is one of them. I just don't see it. So for that reason alone, Colin Carr, you have to do me a favor and hold this L.
All right, so I want to start us off. I'm going to be a little greedy here because Trevor's gone. So whenever you're gone, Eddie, I like to do this too. I like to double down a little bit.
Okay.
I want to first give a W to, in my opinion, and I think it's not even going to be close once he's done, the greatest tight end who's ever lived, Travis Kelce, because as we mentioned earlier, and I want to reiterate it, he reached 10,000 receiving yards, 10,000 career receiving yards this last week against the Broncos. By far the fastest to ever do it at the tight end position. He's now just a little over 5,000 receiving yards from passing Tony Gonzalez for the all-time record for tight ends in NFL history. I don't know if he's going to get that, but I'm definitely not going to be a guy that doubts him when he's done because he's also had a 7th consecutive 1,000-yard season, which is the point I actually want to focus on. I don't think people realize how difficult that really is to do, man. Like, to be able to stay healthy enough for almost a decade to have that many consecutive 1,000-yard seasons as a wide receiver is insane, let alone at the tight end position. And now that Travis Kelce has had 7 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, he has more consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards than these following wide receivers had for their entire careers. Not consecutive, just total. Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, Calvin Megatron Johnson, Andre Johnson, and Michael Irvin. Those are all Hall of Fame first ballot wide receivers. And Travis Kelce's had more consecutive 1,000-yard seasons than those guys had their careers.
Than a true wide receiver.
Think about how insane that is. Like, we're watching the greatest tight end ever. I know people want to talk about Gronk and Tony G. Respect. Those guys had great Hall of Fame careers. There is no one that has done what Travis Kelce has done, and there's no one that continues to do what he does. So W goes to the greatest tight end who has ever lived, Travis Kelce. I also want to give a W, and it's a very melancholy W, to the now late, great college coach Mike Leach. If anybody knew anything about Mike Leach, he began his career back in 1987. He was just an assistant at Cal Poly. And the coach of the Desert in 1988. He served as the coach of Pori Bears in the American Football Association in 1989. He worked his way up until he became the head coach of the Texas Tech Red Raiders, which Patrick Mahomes ended up going to, but he was before Patrick Mahomes' time. He had 3 9-win seasons in 2002, 2005, and 2007, and an 11-win season in 2008, which he was coach of the year. And he continued to work his way up until he actually inserted Cliff Kingsbury as his coach 3 years later. And obviously Cliff Kingsbury's done what he's done in his career. One of the best stories, though, is that in his time as a coach, I think it was in Oklahoma, Cliff Kingsbury told one of his quarterbacks, look, you're not going to make it. You're not going to be a player that I'm going to need. I want you to work on my staff. And that player got so pissed off, ran out, literally just walked out of the meeting, didn't say anything, was pissed because he wanted to keep playing. Next day, that player came in and is like, all right, I'll fucking accept the job. You know who that guy is? Lincoln Riley, the head coach of USC Trojans, who's one of the best coaches in the nation. That was Mike Leach is the one that told him, you got promise as a coach. You're never going to be a player. You're never going to make it as a pro, but you're going to be a great coach. And that guy made a choice, and that guy ended up becoming one of the best coaches in the entire nation. And it was Mike Leach that recognized that. Mike Leach is also, as great of a coach as he was, it's the stories about the person that made him greater. I want you to hear this story. I don't want to give you context of what he's talking about. This is at a press conference, by the way, of him as a head coach.
First of all, what kind of mythical powers does a Sun Devil have? We've got to consider that. I'm going to say the Wildcat's out. The Trojan, does he have a horse or is he on foot? Does he have a bow and arrow or just his sword? The Bruin, definitely formidable. Another bear up there at Cal. The tree, I imagine that tree's going to get chopped down. Unless we're going to go with a bird and somebody might get pecked or something, I don't know. The duck might lose interest and just fly away and get out of there, which may be good advice under the circumstances. The husky, no chance. The beaver, well, we'll see how long that beaver can hold his breath. The ute, again, we're back to, is he on horseback? Does he have a bow and arrow? Did he trade for a rifle? I mean, because if that ute's got a rifle, there's some definite problems. You'd have to get one of those Harry Potter activists to read up on how you kill a Sun Devil, because there's a lot of outside stuff there. As far as a beast alone, a buffalo's going to be pretty hard to tangle with. I mean, a buffalo's utterly outstanding. Did I leave any of them out? The Cougar will find a way. Clear-minded and crafty, a combination of stay out of harm's way and attack when you get your chances or your openings.
That was a press conference when he was talking about team mascots and how they would fare against his Cougars. Like, who does this? That's what made Mike Leach so unique, is that he would actually do that with people. He would actually entertain the press conferences. I remember there was a story that came out this week about him. I think it was a writer or a reporter called him and asked him a question about something in life, and he just starts talking and talking and talking. And then the guy recognized there was a whistle in the background. He's like, Mike, what are you doing? Oh, I'm here at practice. He's like, Mike, we've been talking for like a half hour. We're talking about stuff that had nothing to do with football. He goes, oh, it's all right, it's fine, man, I got time. And he's just like, hey, run that drill. And he's like, so anyway, as I'm saying, and he just goes right back to the conversation right in the middle of practice. Like, he was one of the most unique guys, and furthermore, when we're talking about the football side of things, Mike Leach revolutionized college football, even some in the NFL, because he's the one that created the air raid offense about 12, 15 years ago. And it turned everything into the spread formations where you have no running backs, no backfield, all 5 wide. He created all of it. And the story that I want you guys to hear about why Mike Leach was so, why he was such a genius behind what he was doing, was when he talked about how. So here's the story: the 1999 Oklahoma-Texas game where he fooled them with a fake script. So I want to find the video here because this was so good. I want you guys to hear this. It's a quick little video about Mike Leach with a fake script. It's so good. I got to find this real quick, Eddie. I'm so sorry. Here we go.
No, you're fine.
Everybody likes a good caper, and everybody wants to know something the other guy doesn't know.
Call it the Cotton Bowl Caper. The year was 1999, and making his debut in the rivalry was a mysterious new character, calling plays for OU.
I know that we got to do anything we can to get an edge and to try to keep them off balance and try to get them to squander as many plays as we can.
The Sooners were heavy underdogs, and on Wednesday night, just 3 days before the game, Leach had an idea. More like a play script scheme.
We wanted to just see how honest Texas was. So we decided to write up a script, a dummy script.
The challenge for Leach in the decoy script was to come up with complementary plays to the actual one. So if you were running a play to the left, you wanted the decoy script to say something was going to the right.
The next part of the plot, call it the drop. Leach used one of his players pregame to deploy the decoy, so Texas would be sure to find him.
He's like, I want you to run past their sideline, and as you're running up the tunnel, I want you to take the script and act like you're putting it in your belt loop, let it fall out onto the ground. It was kind of the first real espionage I'd ever been a part of.
One of their GAs is wandering by and, oh, what's this? A piece of paper. He looks at it and his eyes get kind of big and he sort of hides it and looks around to see if anybody saw him get it.
Sure enough, the fake play script made its way straight to the Texas locker room.
We all thought it was real because we thought that the alternative would be just so far-fetched that somebody would go through the trouble to create a fake call sheet and actually leave it and drop it, where we would find it.
Kyle Reese takes it up to the press box. He starts studying the script, trying to figure out what defense they're going to call to match up the script.
When I wasn't calling defenses, I was looking at it. And it was a huge distraction.
And on the second play of the game, the script says double reverse pass.
We were trying to get them over there to the left. We hit Savage and everybody was over to the left and Savage was to the right.
On first down, Hyper wide open to freshman Savage. Touchdown, Oklahoma.
It's very hard in the course of a football game to go back and see a wide receiver at any level of football that wide open.
Going up top, Jackson one-on-one, turns around with a catch to the end zone.
As the game went on, it was a catastrophe.
By the time it was 17-0 Sooners, Coach Reese had seen enough of the so-called script.
I grabbed it, wadded up in a tight ball, and there was a trash can sitting over the corner. I gave it a toss, and there it was. Got rid of it.
After trashing script and calling their original defenses, Texas outscored Oklahoma 38-11 the rest of the way.
So, obviously, the ending didn't work as well, but Mike Leach, being this relatively up-and-coming coach, decided to troll the Texas Longhorns like that by giving them this fake script on purpose. That is legendary shit right there, man. And he went on to have such a successful career, one of the kindest human beings in all of football, one of the greatest minds, his one of one. He was one of one. Everybody that ever knew him said that, and stories like that will forever live on. And I just wanted to pay homage to the great Mike Leach, and we lost a good one way too early. He was only 61 years old. It really sucks, but he meant a lot to a lot of people, and I loved and enjoyed his post games. Even not being a big college fan myself, just hearing him talk, it was always something that was insightful and funny, to be honest. So that's where I want to leave that. This has been a fun show, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. It sucks not having Trevor here for 2 consecutive weeks, but I think Eddie and I have held the fort down pretty well. I think we've done pretty good, and we're feeling really good about this matchup for the Chiefs moving forward. We got a couple more games to watch today as the day goes on. We got some great games coming up tomorrow, Sunday slates. In the meantime, while you guys are watching these games today and watching games this weekend, go ahead and, like I said, hit us up on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. Let us know what you guys are thinking about the show. If you guys have any suggestions, man, we're always open-minded to that, man. We love to hear from you guys. That's what it's all about to begin with. And we appreciate all the support you guys have already given us, and we're very much looking forward to more great shows and great content that we can provide you guys. And we thank you so much for all that you do. So for Trevor Twidwell that's not here, for Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, for Clay Windler that puts all this stuff together on the back end and also runs an incredible YouTube channel, the Red Tribe Cinema. I'm Lance Twidwell. Episode 191 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're here for 198 in 1 week's time, talking about the Chiefs moving on at 11-3 to play a couple more divisional games and have a big Seahawks game coming up at home, we out of this bitch.
See ya.